Alright. Gotta set it up. Hello. Sorry, I'm doing posting right now. I should have done this before, but I had other things to do. So pardon me while I'm still posting stuff. We'll start soon after I'm done with the posting. And to be sorry. Hello. How are you? I'm posting stuff right now. We'll get to the r/NoSleep as soon as we can, or as soon as I can. Just gotta do a couple of things here and there. So, how are you? Oh, I guess I'm sure. Hello, welcome back. Or if you're new, I don't know. I'm still posting stuff on things to let people know. So I do apologize for that. Because I have like TikTok and Kick and a bunch of other ones. So we will get to that as soon as we can. I do apologize for that. Stop it. It is. Okay. Please hold on. I will get there as soon as I can. Okay, almost there. Please hold on for a hot second, please. Got to I do apologize for doing this. And done. Okay, so now we're here. It's fine, Dale. I know. I do apologize. But we will be starting soon. Okay, now we're here. Okay, I do apologize for everyone who has been waiting for me for a long time. I've just been setting up and sending notifications to everybody. I do apologize. Oops, I gotta retrieve this one. Where is it? Oh, right here. Oh, where'd it go? Shit. I do apologize. God damn it. Get in there, you. Oh, wrong one. Ta-da. Okay. Alright. Now we can actually start. I do apologize. Let's see. This one was 9 hours ago. Everyone else saw it. This is what it's called. It's a self-harm one. My Skype session with my mother was in 5 minutes. I had to admit I missed her. I hadn't been able to visit my tiny hometown in years. In fact, I missed contact with anyone, seeing as my current city had been under lockdown for 14 consecutive months. Fortunately, and unlike many of my friends, I was still earning a salary, so now I had to work remotely from home. It was far from ideal, but being able to work in my pajamas and a cold beer being only 5 paces away from my workstation, lockdown certainly wasn't without its perks. 3 minutes until the Skype meeting. I just wished I hadn't broken up with my girlfriend about a week before the breakout, or rather that she hadn't broken up with me. I won't lie, I've been on thin ice for a while, and the last straw seemed to fall on her birthday, the day I promised to take her to see Hamilton in the city, but had been too hungover to go. After 2 days of silence, she phoned and broke off our 11th month courtship. Before hanging up, she whined about my near nightly binge drinking. Oh. Hold up. Okay. How'd I come home late at night, waking her, scaring her cat, smelling like the brewery. After the initial heartache had faded, I managed to laugh it off. Same problem I had in my 20s, I thought. Can't blame a guy for wanting to have a good time, still being able to, but confined to the apartment now. It would have been nice to have some company. The walls were so narrow, so confining, and the nights were so very, very long. About a minute and a half before I had to Skype my mother. Tonight, I was already half in the bag, having pounded a few and chased them with vodka. Sure, it was only a Wednesday, but as long as my reports met their deadline, no one at the office would complain. I have been warned once about my tardiness, disheveled dress, and occasional inhibited demeanor during work hours, but now I worked from home, so no one would notice or cared. 30 seconds left. Ma had already messaged me twice asking if I was online. Remembering how even in a Zoom meeting for work I could sneak a couple of brews, I skipped over to the kitchenette, pulling a cold one from the fridge and pouring it into a ceramic mug. No reason to think it was anything other than a cup of coffee. It's not like I was hiding anything. I just knew how worried Mom would get. Her being a health nut, a neat freak, and devoted follower of the latest health scare making the rounds across the cable news networks. 10:15. Jonathan, are you ready? I planted myself at the desk, my cold mug of lager in my hand, and accepted her request for a Skype call. Within seconds, my mother's pleasant yet weathered face manifested in the form of a few hundred grainy pixels on my monitor. Since turning 60, she stopped getting her hair dyed bronze ambered and had let it go gray, which I thought looked much better. I smiled and took a swig of beer. The two of us spoke leisurely for about an hour. At 7:30, at 73, my father Melvin, had finally decided to retire from the bank. I was glad for that, knowing my father hated that job and never seemed to get the recognition or due compensation he deserved. The bank always making him work extra hours, taking on duties above his pay grade, and always making excuses for postponing vacation days or promotions promised months before. I had polished off the contents of the mug within 6 minutes and had started pouring whiskey from a flask off camera. To maintain the buzz, my mother never seemed to notice. But then she mentioned something that startled me. "Jonathan, I can't see too well. Who's that in the room with you?" I furrowed my brows, a cold feeling working its way up my spine. I was all alone. There wasn't anyone in the apartment with me. Hadn't had any visitors for weeks. There's no one here except me, Mom. No, there's someone there, standing at the corner to your right. My heart lurched, and I spun around looking to the edge of the hallway leading to my bedroom. There was no one there. Turning slowly, I forced a laugh. "Ma, I think your eyes are playing tricks on you. It's probably the bad quality of the pictures you got. It happens all the time. Computers often mistake certain patterns and objects for human faces." But my mother was adamant. There was someone standing not 8 feet behind me, plain as the nose on her face. Just then I sensed something like steam grazing the back of my neck. I considered looking back again, but no, it was nothing, just the power of suggestion. I can't place exactly where this feeling came from, but the chill up my spine was waxed into a small glowing fever, and my mother's insistence was really starting to piss me off. "Okay, look, Mom, it's starting to get late. I have a lot of work to do tomorrow. I'm going to need to go to bed now, so let's just say goodnight." Visibly struck, my mother began to backpedal, asking when we could Skype next, saying that she loved and was proud of me. It was a conscientious effort not to roll my eyes. When the season ended, I drained the flask, then drained the mug. My brain was swimming inside my skull, but my stomach was heavy, and my neck was nettled. My mother had spoiled my good mood. It was now 11:15. I decided to retire in 45 minutes. Free now to move around unencumbered, I stumbled my way to the fridge and popped another tall boy. Taking a deep drink from the can on the back of the whiskey, the imported lager from Prague tasted of bean juice. I killed it, then popped a second one, nursing the beer. I walked over to the eastern exposed windows and peered down at the dark street below. I looked down at the local coffee chains, now shuttered, where hours early a mob of anti-vaxxers had congregated, protesting the store's policy on masks and their refusal to allow indoor dining. At the time, I had shaken my head, mentally condemning them for their stupidity. Now alone, staring at the empty sidewalk, I mentally... I sympathized with them. Maybe illness or even death wouldn't be the worst thing to come from all this. I remembered that I've read somewhere online that suicide rates have dipped during the pandemic. How could that be? After a year of staying at home, I was climbing up the walls 40 minutes until midnight. Now I wasn't drunk. Definitely not. I was tipsy, sure, but not drunk. But I wasn't sleepy either, feeling restless. I picked up my phone and toyed with the thought of texting my ex. Then, knowing she would accuse me of drunk texting, perhaps looking for a booty call or a quick blowy, I nixed the idea and slammed the phone down on my desk. I didn't need that shit right now. Instead, I remembered my buddy from college, Dorian Wentworth, and knew he was often up late being on unemployment in college collecting checks. The isolation of that night was nibbling at me. So I texted him asking for a Zoom meet. Dorian replied immediately in the affirmative. He was already online playing World of Warcraft and could use a break. 30 minutes until bedtime. We met on Zoom and shortened the shit for a good 15 minutes. Talking about everything from our exes to the latest online games to the latest draft decisions of our favorite sports teams. Then about 17 minutes in, I felt my phone vibrate in my lap. Figuring it was just some junk text, I kept chatting with Dorian, then I felt another text through. Not wanting to seem rude, I excused myself and picked up the phone to check. The texts were from Dorian. I looked up at the screen, realizing that Dorian was still talking about nothing. Dorian was blathering on and on as though just trying to force any semblance of a casual, natural conversation. Who was he doing that for? Then I checked the text. They read as follows. Dude, who's that in the corner in the room with you? 11:48. I'm not fucking kidding. Who is that? There's someone right behind you. Feeling that the same chill up my back, though the fiery friction of annoyance wasn't far behind. I looked over my shoulder, then did a full sweep of the room. Nothing. There was no one there. Dorian, said I. Then I shook my head, hearing the drunken slur in my voice. Dorian, you can't stop pretending to talk about D&D. I saw your text. There's no one in the apartment with me. Your computer must have some kind of filter on it. Those things always see faces where there is none. Oh, okay, said Dorian, fear the temptation audible in his voices. His bald, ceramic face looked stunned. Okay, no problem. Listen, it's a bit late, so I should be shoving off now. See you later. Before I could say goodbye, Dorian had left the Zoom meeting. Strange, I thought. Almost instantly, my phone slithered across the top of the desk, indicating another text message. I picked it up this time. Dorian sent a screenshot of the Zoom meeting. The title of it, file reading. Who is that? I saw my face, my eyes heavy with fatigue and drunk, and I saw a red circle drawn around me, around a wide space over my shoulder. Again, there was nothing there, nothing but empty space. The phone then vibrated. A final time in my hand, one last text from Dorian. Don't you see him? That creepy looking guy right over your shoulder. I'm telling you, he's on top of you. Get out of there. I'm calling the cops. By now I was near livid. Even my boy Dorian was pestering with me with this phantom. What would otherwise have been an annoyance was amplified into full-blown range. From the booze sloshing around my bloodstream, I texted back, "There's no need to call the cops. There's nothing here. Just fuck off." I sent the message, turned my phone's on silent, 5 minutes before midnight. Have been hankering for a nightcap. Oops. I made the mistake of getting to my feet too fast. I regretted it instantly, finding my legs were sticks of butter beneath me, and the room was spinning before my eyes. I took a good look. Took a good minute for me to find my equilibrium. Then, able to stand firmly on my own 2 feet, I staggered through the hallway to my bedroom. And the room was spinning before my own eyes. It took me a good minute to focus, and able to stand up firmly on my 2 own feet, I staggered through the hallway to my bedroom and collapsed onto the mattress. I awoke 3 hours later. I had to piss something fierce, but that was what woke me. I could feel my 40 ABV blood racing through my veins, my heart punching a hole through my chest. My stomach felt like I was filled with rocks, and it was in my temples. I could feel a familiar heat on an onset headache, a hangover for sure. Nothing too good nothing to get worried about. When I got out of my bed, the crampled symptoms seemed to recede, and I felt somewhat better. I then strode my way to the commode. Standing, I let out a long stream of urine into the bowl, the dark piss making a small tearing sound against my porcelain. The smell of piss hit my nostrils, causing my stomach to flip, feeling the familiar rush from my gut to my throat. My gullet filling with saliva. I could no longer kid myself. Kneeling onto the floor, I vomited into the bowl, my puke intermixing with the darkened water. The smell was disgusting, and so I flushed before letting out one more mouthful of regurgitated goo.
Trash can in the yard across the street needs to go up to the road and figure out what Dad did.
Okay. I do apologize for that. Where were we? Oh, yes. Panicked for a spell, I slowly got to my feet and felt the full force of my self-induced nausea. I thought about that study I read a while back about how the suicide rates have gone down this past year. I then wondered about the rate of liver failure would be. Before returning to bed to nurse my hangover, I splashed some water on my face, then looked into the mirror above my sink. That's when I saw it, the other man, the thing that my mother and Dorian had seen hovering over me. I stood directly It stood directly behind me. I thought it were a second head jutting out from my shoulder. I saw what's its wacky, shallow skin, its dying, bloodshot eyes, and grotesquely blubberous forehead, its swollen, scarlet scab of a nose, and a crooked set of yellow teeth forming a hideous, rictus grin. The face was not just malformed, but disgusting in its humanness. I could not only see it, but feel its hot breath bearing down my neck. It felt like my flesh was ablaze. Adrenaline surging inside me, I dashed out of the apartment, grabbing an overcoat and slippers on the way. Not waiting for the elevator, I ran down the stairwell, 3 steps at a time. Outside the building, but with the property line of the complex, I fished out a lighter and cigarette from my coat pocket and lit it up. As I was panting, the tobacco hit my lungs hard, causing me to cough. I took a smaller drag, which soothed the burn at the back of my gullet. I started to feel better. What was that in the mirror? It was still dark out, dark and empty. I couldn't go far, not without risking infection. That was, despite understanding the motives and zest for life demonstrated by the anti-maxers, I wasn't about to tempt catching COVID. Not over some spook in the mirror. Well, I probably wouldn't have caught anything, what with the streets as empty as they were, but why take a risk? I've been a bit over hypochondriac. It couldn't have been real, I thought. That was just stupid. There's no such thing. I then began to chuckle a little bit, laughing at myself for being so childish. There was nothing in the mirror, assuring that I've been dreaming, imagining things from the power of suggestion. I crushed a cig and made my way back inside. By the time I slunk back into my room, my temples were in a full throb of agonizing migraine. But at least now my stomach was empty and my blood pressure had gone down to normal. It had been a rough day, but nothing that I had faced before. I get all my work in on time and would even be able to hack it in the staff Zoom meeting without raising any eyebrows. But before I retired to try to try and salvage what was left of a good night's rest, I crept back in the bathroom. I couldn't say why, other than there was some invisible force pulling me back in front of the mirror. Perhaps I just needed to assure myself one last time that it was all in my head. But then as I stood there facing my reflection, it only took a minute before the spectre reappeared. There was no surprise or shock this time. Not like a jump scare in the movies. Instead, the apparition just materialized into view, as though re-emerging from beneath a black pool of liquid. A crooked, hideous grin seemed to taunt me from the other side of the glass. I had a good look at it, and realizing I'd seen it before. I've seen the same face in my dreams, in my nightmares, in the reflections and shadows that always seem to follow me. Ever since I was 6 years old, this spectre has always been there, always following me, but was now far more palatable, far more powerful. I knew the spectre would always be with me, always shadowing. But in all terror-filled childhood memories, I'd never seen the spectre hovering this close behind, and I've never seen its face look so near to my own reflection in the mirror. What happened next, the compilations of events defied reason's insanity. It took a moment, but I soon realized I couldn't breathe, or at least it seemed like I couldn't breathe. The air was so dense, so thick, humid, and hot, like jungled mist. It smelled of acetone and stale yeast, and reeked of bile. The hairs on the back of my neck stood on end and burned like candles at a midnight vigil. That was where it was the hottest. At the back of my neck, where the enormous mouth of the spectre was closest. My chest heaving, my own breathing now audible. I tried to tear myself from the mirror, not even turned around my face, my tormentor, but I was stuck there by the same force that had drawn me in to take a second glance. I might be exaggerated myself. Before the face had reappeared, but now it was too late. The heat cindering my flesh grew brighter, taking on a wet, moist quality somehow, and the sound of heavy breathing. Mine or the spectre's, I couldn't be sure, was lodging my ears. It was maddening. In its Monterey had incessance. The room was a furnace. And still that face, that horrible yellow face, was staring, glaring at me from the mirror. I turned the taps, then promptly twisted them, finding only white fog billowing from the pipes. I was so hot, so hot and so thirsty. The hell was happening? Why was this happening? I wasn't sure how I knew, but that face in the mirror was the cause of it all. I just knew it. Acting on inerrant, I slapped the glass, aiming for the spectre's reflection. The mirror's surface was chilled, almost cold. It might have also been that it was slick, but to my touch, it felt like ice instead of that boiling room, like cool, refreshing water. It then came to me. Of course, it made perfect sense. It was the only thing left to do. I struck the mirror again, this time with a closed fist. The glass wobbled on its hooks, the spectre's image and mine disappearing for a fleeting second. It shimmered waves, just a little more, and almost over. I threw a right hook into the glass, putting my hip into the throw, and the mirror shattered into 1,000 pieces. The silvery shards laid inside the basin before me, glittering in the moonlight like a billion lost stars, feeling somewhat wet on my knuckles. I brought my hand to my nose and smelled blood. The wheezing Capricorni had ceased, but the room was still unbearable, growing hotter by the second, and my feet were still glued to the floor. At least I didn't see that face. Then, looking down at the shards of glass winking at me from the sink, I got a second idea. Another brilliant plan by anyone's standards of a drunken dream logic. But then, any sober and rational hearing, it might well say it. was the only course of action I had left to free myself of the looming figure, the best thing for me at this point. I reached down and picked up a shard of the former mirror and practically long blade-shaped piece. It felt so cold, so soothing in my hand. It's just like shaving, I thought, speaking to myself. It's like a shave after a long, hot shower. Maroon oozing from my knuckles, the sweat on my back evaporating instantly. In the boiling hell room, I stretched my neck, pointing my chin upward, and drew the makeshift razor close. It feels so smooth, I thought, feeling a jagged edge grazing my 3-day stubble. It's just like shaving. The warbling birds outside roused me. In the weak daylight, I found myself face down on the floor, blood everywhere. Am I dead? I thought. No, but close to it. I looked around me, discovering the scarlet splatter I was lying on, and the shards of the broken mirror. My head felt like an expanding water balloon about to burst, but that wasn't what concerned me. I felt a sting, most prominent in the side of my neck. I then realized what I had done, or what I had almost done before blacking out. I felt a thrill of panic and it rise in my chest. Did I? Fearing the worst, I grabbed a large piece of mirror, not one too extra bites, vitreous smudges, and looked at myself. Past the blood caked on my skin, I could make out a long, fleshy scar carving its way from the stairmaster door over my jaw and ending in a hook along my cheek. Just shy of meeting the corner of my mouth, a scratch, a bad one, but nothing fatal. That being said, I had lost a lot of blood, and I had called a doctor. Probably go to the hospital. Oh, I'm almost done. Easing myself vertically, almost falling over from the blood loss, and grabbed a towel and pressed it hard on my lacerated face and neck. I then stumbled my way back to the kitchen, pouring a tall glass of orange juice, then dialed 911. I was discharged from the hospital hours later. The faculty was hopelessly overburdened with patients, but they managed to stitch me up, then send me on my way, telling me to pick up a roll of gauze and some antibiotics ointment from the pharmacy before I left. As much as I was worried about catching COVID, I was kind of relieved that the hospital had so much else on their plate to dealing with. No nagging questions about whether this was suicide attempt or how much alcohol or drugs I consumed. I didn't need that shit right now. Though one of the nurses did find time to comment that my scar looked kind of like a question mark, with that hooked at the end and all. I didn't know what to make of that. By the time I arrived home, it was past noon, and I missed the Zoom meeting from work. I texted my supervisor with a half-baked excuse, lying about what happened, but keeping the part about going to the hospital. Hopefully it would fly. I hadn't taken any days off from work in months. Still, they probably knew. Besides the wound and the shattered mirror, there was no evidence of the incident last night. There was no boiling heat and no bodiless face hovering over me. Even my clothes weren't sweat through like they ought to have been. It was nothing but an idiotic nightmare fueled by too much beer and too much spirit. Sitting at my desk, feeling faint but mostly present, I thought about whiling away some hours online, playing Minecraft and scrolling through Facebook. But before any of that, I thought first things first, I scored the fridge, then my desk, and all the cupboards of liquor, finding beer, wine, and spirit. Then, without hesitation, poured the contents of each can, bottle, and Mickey down the kitchenette sink. It was somehow satisfying watching the brownish yellow liquid disappear in the drain. I found further satisfaction crushing each aluminum can before stuffing them with the glass into a black trash bag. I lugged the bag down the steps, not bothering the elevator. What is it doing? Okay. And somehow the thing on Streamlabs is going in and out. Like it tells me the time and the FPS and all that stuff. And now it's flipping out like it's going stop live, go live, stop. I don't know what it's doing. This crap. Anyways. Where was I? Oh. Not bothering with the elevator and dispositive the heavy load on the street. Back in my apartment, I felt contented. And for the first time in months, years perhaps, clean, pure. I decided, despite my misadventure, to attempt some of the reports. Maybe if I sent them in before midnight, it would make up for missing the Zoom call with my coworkers. Maybe they'd notice with time. How did I turn a new leaf? How I became a new man. Yes, this felt good. This felt right. But it only took a few hours until I realized the farce I was playing. Until I felt that feeling, that pull, that same gravitational pull that drew me to the mirror a second time the night before. Getting up from my chair, I inched my way into the bedroom where a full-length mirror was waiting for me. I began to feel thirsty. Who was I kidding? Standing in front of the mirror, staring at it, I waited, seeing nothing but my own reflection. The gauze on my bandage starting to look solid. Then, as though on cue, it appeared, a grinning yellow face. This time it didn't look like it was right behind me, but instead beside me, as though the floating bodiless head was resting its chin on my shoulder, the two of us standing cheek to cheek like lovers. There was no heavy breathing this time, no suffocating heat in the room, but something about the spectre's appearance had changed, wanting a better look. I turned my head to the side, and the spectre mimicked me in sync, exposing that side of its face as it almost eclipsed the mine. There, marking the spectre's rocky flesh, a deep black gash, the wound standing from the side of its neck and ending in a hook along its bloated yellow cheek. So it's doing that. Well, that was a long one, but that was fun. I do apologize for stopping early, but hey, that happened. But thank you guys for enjoying this story. Hopefully you like it and share this with your friends. This was a long one. This almost took an hour. But I had to do some other stuff outside of the house. Yeah. We're gonna do this one, alright? But, need to figure out something. But next week for you guys, next week will be the last. Well, not the last. It will be the one that will be the last of this year. You know what I'm saying? So the next week at 6 p.m. same time, we'll do it again and we'll see where we can go. But I'll try to get some more videos in, but I have a shitty laptop. Because I just bought it not too long ago, like last week. And when I was trying to do the live stream for the VR and the everything else and da 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 da. But thank you guys for watching. Hope you subscribe and hit that bell icon to keep updated. But other than that, I am sorry about being late because I have other things to do, and by the time it's 6 o'clock or close to 6, I do all my posts and stuff on different channels and different things like Discord, Kick, TikTok. But thank you guys for joining with me. And I'll see you guys the next time. Peace.